Welcome to the Well Seasoned Librarian Podcast. I'm your host, Dean Jones. This is Season 6, Episode 7. I'm very happy to have the wonderful Dianne Jacob on the program today. I really enjoy getting a chance to meet Dianne after following her on social media and reading her work online. Dianne coaches food writers and bloggers on how to get a cookbook published and how to improve the quality and effectiveness of your writing. Dianne is an author of multiple award-winning books on food writing. Will Write for Food, Pursue Your Passion and Bring Home the Dough, Writing Recipes, Cookbooks, Blogs, and more. She co-authored 2 cookbooks with chef Craig Priebe and has judged cookbooks for the James Beard Foundation and the International Association of Culinary Professionals. Previously a newspaper, magazine, and publishing company editor-in-chief, she has a blog and free newsletter aimed at food writers and bloggers. Now we're going to go directly to my conversation with Dianne Jacob. Welcome to the Well Seasoned Librarian Podcast. Today, I'm happy to have Dianne Jacob with us. Dianne coaches food writers and is the author of the award-winning book, Will Write for Food, Pursue Your Passion and Bring Home the Dough, Writing Recipes, Cookbooks, Blogs, and more. Dianne, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Dean, thanks for having me on.
Dianne, for our listeners who are unfamiliar with your work, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a teacher, a writing coach, and in addition to Will Write for Food, I'm the co-author of 2 cookbooks that I wrote with a chef. And so my work is with people who want to improve their food writing or get started as food writers. And I do a lot of classes. I have a free newsletter on Substack aimed at food writers and food bloggers. And I also have a blog that I started in 2009 aimed at food writers and food bloggers. I have a background as a journalist. I went to journalism school twice, once in Canada and once in the United States.
Wow.
And I've worked on newspapers, magazines, and an electronic book publishing company. Usually I was either an executive editor or the editor-in-chief. And then I became self-employed about 26 years ago, and I missed working with writers. And so I decided to make that my career. I started teaching food writing, and there was no book. And that's how I came up with the idea to write Will Write for Food. And now it's in its 4th edition.
So how did you make your leap to food writing? You see that you've done journalism, as you said, but how did you get into food writing? What appealed to you in that field?
Well, the first time I got into it, I was 22 years old, and I took a job as the editor of a city magazine that was about restaurants. It was in Vancouver, Canada. And, I had graduated from journalism school maybe a year earlier, and they contacted me at a newspaper and offered me this job. And so I had a staff of restaurant writers, and I wrote articles also. I wrote feature articles about restaurants. I remember there was a restaurant that paired music and food in several courses.
Cool.
I did, yeah. I interviewed some chefs. I wrote all kinds of stuff, and I probably had no idea what I was doing from a culinary standpoint, but I knew what I was doing from a journalism standpoint. So that was when I was 22. And then I continued I had my other jobs, but I continued doing restaurant reviews on the side. And in those days, if you told someone you were a food writer, they assumed that you were writing restaurant reviews. And well, they had a lot of misconceptions about what that was, but anyway, it was fun to write restaurant reviews on the side. And then when I became self-employed, I knew that I needed to start a lot of writing. And I'd always managed teams of writers, and I didn't write that much myself. So I had to decide what I wanted to write about. And I decided that what I was obsessed with was food. Not in the traditional sense. It really came from my parents because they had a very unusual background, and when they were immigrants, and when they came to North America, they really couldn't. They had to like sort of reinvent themselves, and they didn't really want to. They missed their family and what they had eaten before, and so they wanted to recreate the foods of their past to identify themselves, mostly to themselves and to us as who we were. We identified ourselves through our food at our house when I was growing up. So my parents were totally obsessed with food and making their own dishes. So I think that rubbed off on me more than I ever thought about. And so that's why I wanted to write about food. I didn't want to write, asparagus is coming into season, so here's 5 recipes for using asparagus.
Yeah.
I did that kind of writing. I wrote about how to create a cheese board and how to pick wine when people are coming over for dinner and pair it with food. I mean, I wrote all kinds of stuff because I was just trying it out and seeing how I liked it.
What kind of foods were being cooked? What did your parents cook? What kind of things were they making?
Well, my parents were Iraqi Jews from China, and their families had passed through India. So I grew up eating Iraqi Jewish food, Baghdadi, Bombay Jewish food, Chinese food, and Japanese food. My mother was interned in a Japanese prisoner of war camp for 3 years. I don't think that's why she made Japanese food. I think a lot of the relatives made it. I think it was like the rage to make sukiyaki. She made her own udon noodles.
Wow.
My father made labneh and pickles at home, torshi, an Iraqi pickle, and he tried to grow Chinese vegetables in the backyard with some success.
Nice. That's really awesome. Yeah, I love that. What a great combo of stuff. It
was a lot of food that nobody else was eating at the time, and people still have no idea what I'm talking about.
Now, you worked for a while as a food writer in San Francisco, at the San Francisco Weekly. What was it like working there?
Well, that was one of my early jobs after I became self-employed. I was used to writing restaurant reviews. So San Francisco Weekly was having a contest to find a new reviewer. And they hired me to write a review and paid me for it. And I won the contest. So then I had a job where I ate at least 3 restaurants a week, and I was responsible for 1 review a week. And my editor and I made a list of restaurants that we both were interested in, and then I had total autonomy to review them. The funniest part of that job is that she wanted me to be edgy as a writer. That's the word she wanted. And I didn't really know what edgy meant. And so I decided that it meant bitchy. And so I created a whole file of bitchy writing. And so that when I sat down to write my reviews, I would review the writing in those files and get in a bitchy mood and then write my piece.
I like it.
So that was really fun, actually.
That sounds fun. I could do that. Most people would think that it's really great to go out 3 times a week to restaurants. Was it fun as I would think it would be, or is it kind of
It
hard?
was fun in the beginning, and then after a while, I felt like, oh my God, this is becoming my whole life because it was 3 minimum, and sometimes going back twice, and usually going back twice.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, after a while, I felt like it had taken over my life, and I wanted to be able to go out at night or stay home, or sometimes there were meetings at night that I wanted to attend. So I stopped. It was I had a good compendium of pieces, but I didn't see how to do it in the long term. I really tip my hat to the people who do it professionally, because it's really exhausting to go to that many restaurants and eat that much restaurant food.
Now, did you do anything like Ruth Reichel and wear disguises and stuff? Or
Oh, no, nobody knew who I was when I started, so I didn't have to worry about that.
you must have seen some great restaurants come out. Did you see the birth of anything kind of fun or good, like Greens or something like that?
No, but my test review was at Boulevard,
Oh wow,
and
nice.
I went to a lot of really nice restaurants for that job that I wouldn't normally go to on any kind of a regular basis. So it was great. You know which restaurant I went to right after it opened was Cookbooks
Oh, I think I
in
remember
San
that one.
Francisco in
Yeah,
the financial district.
I
That's
think
a
I remember that.
fantastic restaurant.
So I wanted to talk about your book, Will Write for Food. The fourth edition's out, and it came out
Mhm.
last year. And the book is, it is so well regarded that it's actually a textbook in college for a lot of students.
Yes.
And
Yep.
I think that's a hell of an acclaim, I think. So how has it felt, when you wrote it initially and it's been, in the fourth printing? How has it felt for you, the success of this book and having it have such gravitas?
Well, thank you. I did not have any expectations actually when I wrote it. I just thought I need a resource for teaching food writing because there isn't one. And I've been surprised by how long it's lasted. I mean, the first edition came out in 2005. So it's still going. There's been a revision every 5 years. The most recent one was 6 years because, it was supposed to come out at the start of the pandemic, and my publisher, everything was upside down, so they delayed it a whole year. So yeah, I found out that there's someone at Harvard who uses my book as a textbook. People at the CIA in Hyde Park use it. It's all over the place. There's someone in Arizona, a teacher in Arizona, who has a student interview me every year for her class, where it's used as a textbook. So it's just been thrilling to me that they think that it's worthwhile. It's because it's a big book. It's 120,000 words, even though it's squished into this tiny little trade paperback. And that would normally be 2 books. So
Yeah.
there's a lot in there.
I just read it. I just finished it this week, and it wasn't, it's no pithy work. It's quite a bit in there.
Thank you.
It's like taking a class in a way. I can see why it's
Thank
a
you.
textbook. It makes sense.
I think the first edition, I interviewed 75 people and quoted from 250 books, and I wrote the whole thing in 4 months. So that
Yeah.
was a little crazy.
Well, I posted about it on social media, and like the response I got was pretty overwhelming, because it was like a lot of people saying, I've got that book. I've read that book. Everybody was like, yeah, we know that book. It's like a touchdown, I think, for most people
Oh,
that
that's
work in
wonderful.
anybody who has
Where
a
was
blog.
that?
That
On
was
Instagram?
on Instagram. Yeah.
I'll
just the
have
other
to go
day.
look that up.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, people are very positive about it. Everybody's like, oh yeah, love this book. Everybody's like really like, very positive about it. So
That's super.
yeah, I was like really kind of like impressed by that, because there is something out there that's such a touchstone for everybody who kind of writes in social media and blogging and stuff like that. Everybody's got this one thing that's like their touchstone.
Thank you.
Now your food blog is 13 years old at this as of this airing.
Yeah.
How does
Yeah.
that feel? I mean, you've had a food blog, I think kind of you were getting in at the beginning of food blogging or blogging in general. So how has that felt, I
Well,
think, for the longevity of your blog?
I actually I procrastinated for a while before starting it because I didn't I wasn't looking forward to the whole tech aspect of it, and I didn't know if I was going to be any good at it. Um, yeah, I think blogging started when I wrote the first edition in 2005, and I was very dismissive of it because I was a print person, and print
Right.
at that time was considered to be superior to blogging, and blogging was done by amateurs. And I was like, whatever, I don't know what this is. I don't know if it should be in here, you know. So I left it out. And then in the 2010 edition, it was a huge, blogging was huge. And
Yep.
I wrote like 7,000 word chapter about how to start a food blog and what you need to know. And I think I started my blog in 2009. And, that it was before social media. And so, I would write a post where I like to be a little controversial. So I would write a post that said something like, our bloggers, journalists, our food bloggers, journalists. And I'd make, I made an argument for why they were. And, it was nothing to get like 50 comments and from famous people. In those days. And so it was really exhilarating. I posted twice a week for the first couple of years. Then I went down to once a week. And now I'm down to twice a month. And the comments, the rise of social media has led to the demise of commenting on blog posts, just because there's so many places to comment all the time. Everyone supposedly wants your opinion on everything at every moment. So,
Yeah.
um, I've also changed over to using a lot of guest posters who have expertise in a certain area. Because I've been concentrating on my newsletter now on Substack. I moved it over there in November. I hardly ever write on the blog. I've been using guest posters.
So I want to ask you, a lot of people are doing blogs now or writing on mediums like Medium, for instance, where they really don't often have editors. They're just like putting stuff out there. It's like Facebook in a way where you can just post whatever you want. And it's nice in that, you can write if you want to. But for me, like I look at stuff I've written 2 years ago and I cringe going, wow, I wish I would have. I think you miss the having an editor like you do in a newspaper or a magazine, having somebody say, this is crap, I'm not running this. Or punch this up, do this or that differently. It really misses, I think, having somebody who can give you get the criticism after it. You publish it, and then if everybody else tells you it's shit, instead of the editor saying, this is awful. What do you think about this kind of new frontier now?
Well, there's some people who are really good, and there's some people who are really bad, and then there's everything in between. Yeah. So I think the people who want to take it really seriously, I hope that they take writing classes, that they have an editor review their work. I have people review everything that I write before I post it, different kinds of people. And that's important to me, because I just want to have a reality check. I want someone to tell me when they, think I've got a tangled sentence or something that I said didn't make sense, or I was going in the wrong direction. And I've been an editor for my entire career, right out of journalism school. My first job was as an editor. So I think editors have a lot to offer people.
Yes.
And the people who work with me are, they might be a little nervous about being edited, but I do show them how to improve the quality of their writing. That's a big part of what I do.
This episode of the Well Seasoned Librarian Podcast is sponsored by the Culinary Historians of Northern California, a Bay Area educational group dedicated to the study of food, drink, and culture in human history. To learn more about this organization and their work, please visit the website at www.chnorcal.org. Now, you work as a writing coach and editor, as we've said. So what do you love about helping people get their projects going and seeing their work in print?
Well, I think that is what I love, is seeing someone who's, improve their writing by leaps and bounds, from when we started to where they are. It's really very satisfying to see that someone is taking what I said seriously and applying it to their own work. And also for people to get book deals and to get articles published in prestigious publications and websites as a result of working together has been really, very satisfying work for me.
What do you think are some of the rookie mistakes people make when they start doing food writing?
Well, in food writing particularly, people use way too many adjectives. In fact, I'm teaching some classes later this month, and I was just trying to think of an exercise this morning, because I said I would give them one at the end of the class, and I decided that I'm going to ask them to write what they ate for breakfast without using any adjectives at all, and see what happens, because people love to string 4 or 5 adjectives in front of a noun and make these lists basically of, because they don't know other ways to describe food. You can use simile, you can use metaphor, you can use emotion to write about it without using a single adjective. It just takes more thought.
I know I'm addicted to adjectives. I tend to have to, I need to get a support group, Adjectives Anonymous. So
it's a big problem.
What would be your recommendation for somebody who says, I want to get into food writing? What would be your first thing to say to them, like right off the bat?
Well, like what kind of food writing? Like what are they looking for? I think it's very hard to write some version of "I love food."
Yeah.
That's very broad. You're competing with a lot of other people who are writing "I love food." So I think it would be great to kind of narrow it down a little bit. Like what is it that you're totally obsessed with? Are you like a winemaker? Do you love to bake on weekends? Are you obsessed with making your mother's Korean food? What is it specifically that you identify with? And don't try to take on everything. Everything is overwhelming, and it also doesn't really help you become known if you just write about everything. But you will become known if you become, somebody obsessed with I don't know, are people still obsessed with paleo food? Whatever you're obsessed with.
Yeah.
Vegan, whatever it is, if you can pick a category of some kind, I think you're going to do better.
Do you feel like the field has changed since you started your blog? Because it seems like food writing continues to morph and re-evolve continually.
It does, especially when it comes to starting a blog. I mean, in the old days, you started a blog because you thought it would be fun and you had something to say and you were writing about yourself and you told stories. And now people want to start a food blog because they want to make money.
Right.
And it's really about search engine optimization so that your snickerdoodle recipe will get on the first page of Google search results, and how to write a recipe that Google will feature, which is very different from where food blogging was even 5 years ago. And it does really interfere with good writing when you have to spend all your time writing for search engine optimization. Or, I mean, let's just say not everybody can pull that off.
Now, I know from experience, I've written a lot of bad recipes, and I really think that like there's definitely like a learning curve for writing recipes. Do you think that there's like people just can think, I think everybody thinks they can write a recipe. And I found like over time, I stopped doing it because I realized I wasn't really pulling it off. And there's a lot of criticism on it too. Like some people don't like big biographies in front of a recipe. Everybody complains about that now, which I feel like it's like kind of a crappy complaint. But what's your take on writing recipes?
Well, once a month, somebody goes on Twitter and says, just give me the recipe. I'm tired of all the preamble. I don't care about your dog or your mother or whatever. And then everyone goes berserk. So I've given myself permission to not respond to those things anymore. And I think if you're writing for free and giving people free recipes, you can do whatever you want. And if someone doesn't like it, they can go to a recipe database like All Recipes, where there's hardly any preamble. And that blogs are not recipe databases in the same way. They're supposed to be personal. So but to your point about recipe writing is a technical skill. It has a lot of rules, and it's difficult. It's a technical skill that has to be learned. It's not like regular writing, and it's very hard to pull off. I edit a lot of recipes, and it's pretty terrifying. The last time I did it, I spent 3 hours editing 2 recipes. That's how bad they were. And this person was supposed to give me 10 recipes. So after 2, I said, okay, don't send me any more. We need to have a little class on how to write a recipe, because they were just terrible. And it's not hard to do.
What's your favorite feedback you received from somebody who you've helped with writing coaching?
Well, I do have a whole page of testimonials, and so I was reading through them, and I guess I'll just read you one that I got from someone I helped become a freelance writer. Most of my work is helping people who want to write cookbooks, write book proposals, but I also do help people get their articles published. So here's what he said. It's always a pleasure to meet with Dianne. Her support, guidance, and feedback have helped me find the courage and authenticity I need for my writing projects. She was very much present with me while I was writing, editing, and rewriting pitches. Her support has helped me develop not only my writing, but more importantly, my confidence. That's so that was lovely. And he's still going full blast, getting articles published. And he knows, he's mastered the rules of how that works. And he's had a lot of success. But the confidence is, I think, a really important part of the job. I'm always amazed by people who don't seem to have any talent, but they feel very confident about their abilities. And then on the other end, there are so many people I've met who are beautiful writers, and there are people who have brought me to tears in my classes, right? Who've written something just in a class exercise, and they just have no faith at all in their own abilities. So it really is all over the place. But I think confidence, especially for freelance writers, is a critical skill to develop, because there's such a high rejection rate when you pitch your articles.
Oh yeah. Who are some of the food writers that you like to read that you really think are outstanding? Hello? Sorry, there you are.
You froze there for a second.
Yeah, that was
You want to start and do that again? I'm getting my connection is unstable.
okay. I'll start again. Who are some of your favorite food writers?
Oh man. Well, it's really hard. It's really hard to name anyone.
That's a hard question.
But I've been friends with David Leibovitz for a long time.
Oh yeah, he's lovely.
He has so much energy. He has so much to say, and I love reading what he has to say. He knows how to entertain people. He's funny. There's a tremendous volume of good information in whatever he writes. He has terrific recipes, and he's been very successful. And I love reading the New York Times and the Washington Post and the LA Times, and I've got a stack of probably 30 or 40 books next to my bed that I'm reading, a lot of food memoir. I love to read cookbooks in bed and imagine what I'm going to make. I don't know if there's any one person other than David that I read religiously. I've started reading Alison Roman's newsletter on Substack, because she's the number one food writer on Substack, and I'm always she's very good at entertaining also, and very funny and self-deprecating. So that's been a pleasure. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know, there's dozens and dozens of people, I guess, that I'm reading at any one time.
Do you like any genres outside of cooking? Do you ever get like fed up with food writing a bit and read something else?
Well, I am in a book group that doesn't read food writing, so we read novels, we read nonfiction, literary narrative. So I used to be a big poetry reader, and I have a poetry collection in my office. So every once in a while I'll take down a book and just page through it for the pleasure of reading poetry.
That's wonderful. I love poetry as well.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm a big Yeats fan.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any food writing in Yeats? I don't think so, right?
I think there's one standout poem. I can't remember the name of it, but it has a little bit of food in there, but not much. Yeah, I think there's a lot of lacking. There was a poet that has a lot of food in his poetry that was an actor. Victor Buono had a couple of poetry books, and he wrote about food, exclusively about the trials and travails of dieting, and that was really fun.
Was that poetry?
Yeah, he wrote a lot of poetry. I have two.
I gotta look this guy up.
Yeah, he was an actor. He played a lot of villains. And
tell me his name again.
Victor Buono, Buono. He was like a friend of Betty Davis's, and he was an actor that was around. I think he died in the 90s, but yeah, he was really fun, and he wrote a lot about food. He was a big.
Okay, I'll have to check him out.
Mainly about dieting though, because he was kind of.
I think that's funny.
Yeah, no, he was
like
great.
That.
So what's next for you?
Well, right now I'm a super judge for IACP, judging cookbooks for the annual awards, and I don't have to judge the cookbooks. I'm managing 9 judges, but
wow.
But I get sent all the books, so that's very exciting. So I'm gonna have a big stack of books to read,
Nice.
Which always gives me pleasure. And mostly I'm just trying to get good at writing a newsletter. I've written a newsletter for a long time. In the beginning, it was just for students and past clients to, tell them give them some writing tips or talk about what events I had coming up. But now it's gotten much more broad than that. And I'm trying to get better at writing my newsletter and developing my own voice of what I want to talk about. Because it was one thing to write for food. That's like every 5 years. And it's another thing to have something to say twice a month. So I'm trying to get in that groove and have something to say that's worthwhile twice a month. Trends, best practices. I've missed that kind of writing. So it's fun.
Well, Dianne, I want to thank you for being on the program. I really enjoyed getting a chance to talk to you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I very much enjoyed it.
That was my conversation with Dianne Jacob, author of Will Write for Food. We have information about her book and writing courses in the link in the bio. If you're interested in her book, I recommend it highly. It is a must-have for anybody that's going to be getting into food writing, and the 4th edition is now out at all better bookstores. Now, next week, we have some exciting people on the program. I'm looking forward to having you listen to all of them. On Monday, we have Kevin J. Wetmore, PhD, author of Eaters of the Dead, Myths and Realities of Cannibal Monsters. Really enjoyed getting a chance to talk to Kevin. He's just very prolific, has a lot of really wonderful books out, and this is not the least of them. So be with us on Monday to talk to Kevin. Now on Wednesday, we're going to have bakery owner Arturo Incisio, baker and bakery owner of Gusto Bread in Long Beach. I had a great time talking to Arturo. He was really a fun person to talk to, and I got to learn a lot about his journey and basically manifesting his dream of becoming a baker and owning a bakery, which he's done during the pandemic. He was a great person to talk to, and I really recommend it. Friday, we're going to have the wonderful duo Mariana Nuno Ruiz and Ian McEnroe with their book, Dining with the Dead. It came out last year, and it's about Dios de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead. It's just a really great book, and it's full of many, many amazing, gorgeous photographs by Ian McEnroe. This husband and wife team was really great to talk to, and I really recommend you be here to listen to that on Friday. So come in next weekend. And then I want to give a shout out to Asian Man Records. Our podcast theme song, Talk About Love, is sung by the band Kitty Cat Fan Club that's on the Asian Man Records label. You can go to the link in the bio and check them out, order some records from them, find out some new bands you may be a fan of and didn't even know it. Until then, I want you all to have a really great weekend now and keep cooking.
I've been getting